And we continue now with our great American panel. All right, so we got the ACLU also turning a little bit on the president, and they ran this ad where Obama is morphing into President Bush, interestingly, in the New York Times this past Sunday. And obviously because they want the president not to reverse himself on civilian trials for terror detainees. You've got Michael Moore saying that the Dems are in for I'll use the kinder and gentler phrase, butt whooping. In the next election, and he says that basically Democrats don't have a backbone. What does that mean in terms of, the debate when you got the hard left now attacking the president? He's not liberal enough for them.
Well, and you got Frank Rich in the New York Times on Sunday, who's one of the great liberal cheerleaders.
And Krugman has attacked him, and
basically saying there's
him.
no coherent message. And the bottom line is, right now, Obama is a place where you never want to be as an incumbent president going into an off year. He is in a no man's land where his base is deflated. They're not fired up and ready to go. If you look at the Virginia off year, the youth vote went from 21% to 11. The African-American vote went from 20 to 15. And that's going to happen all over the country.
What is up with
and conservatives are fired up.
I don't think I've been as bored when it was my mother's 25th wedding anniversary party. You guys, you ask a question that's loaded, so that El Jefe over here could answer it with another loaded response. So you can both beat up on Obama. Let me say one thing. I'm going to say one thing. I like Ralph, actually, although he does run off at you like. Ralph's got his book. This is the most amazing thing. He wrote this book. It's called Dark Horse. He wrote this thing in 2006 predicting a black nominee for president and a woman vice presidential nominee. You got to buy this. It's in soft cover.
No, it's a great book.
Out, brand new. And
it's endorsed by Sean.
That's correct.
Sean's on the cover.
And Laura's also, but you're not promoting this.
Why don't you respond? When the ACLU and Michael Moore, and you're losing them, and you're losing Krugman, and you're losing these New York Times reporters, and wait a minute, and they're morphing you into President Bush. And the president spoke with progressives, and he said on the health care debate, my presidency's on the line. You're saying that's not significant?
Well, it's the morphing into Bush that's painful. The rest of it doesn't bother me. Look, the fact that he's getting attacked from the left is not all that bad politically. You guys have, for some reason, think that the American people are going to spend endless hours thinking about all this. Once this health care bill is voted on, it will pass. It will become a good law of the land. It will be forgotten. The losses for the Democrats are going to happen.
I can't believe somebody as smart as you could be this way.
Wait, I've been in the political analysis business for a long time. It's already albatrosses around. The whole administration's problems are hanging. The Democrats right now, in my view, are very close to losing the House if it were held today. They won't lose the House by November, I don't think. But it's much more than a health care bill. This health care bill, frankly, is not that big a voting issue.
They passed this bill, and with all the corruption that is involved, and clearly, with all due respect,
Bob, you're
out of touch. The Cornhusker kickback, the payoff to unions, the Louisiana Purchase, and the way that they're twisting arms
this is a Boy Scout convention?
Excuse me. Wait a minute. The American, you're not listening. They're screaming at the top of their lungs. They've had it.
But the point is, it's not just ACLU ads morphing Obama into Bush. It's MoveOn.org raising $1 million for a liberal lieutenant governor to run against Blanche Lincoln, who right now is losing by 25 points in Arkansas to Daffy Duck.
She's going to win. You settle this.
Well, I believe that health care is something that we all need, and whether I think the people that have health care right now should be allowed to keep the health care that they have, and somehow we need to figure out some way for all Americans to have health care, and that's why I'm not president. And I think he needs to.
That's a very good answer. That makes you just made more sense in 30 seconds. These two guys have made this whole show.
There's nobody that says they're against health care reform. But we're just not for the government takeover.
Well, for 12 years, you had the House, you had the Congress and the White House. You didn't do one thing. You didn't do one thing about health care, did you?
You can't cover 30 million uncovered people. And reduce the deficit. It doesn't add up.
Why not? Because we're paying for them right now.
If you look at the numbers, it's $2.3 trillion over 10 years, and it blows a $4 trillion hole in the deficit.
This is what I call numbers. This is numbers by Reed. These are numbers by Reed. It's $2.4 million surplus. It's going to be. You're exactly wrong. You're making up your numbers.
It
is a classic Republican.
Did not dispute them at the health care.
Let's keep this in mind. You lost.
Hang on a second.
You lost.
No, we got that.
But it's only temporary, Bob.
Listen, you like the Washington Post, the real liberal newspaper. The headline is, national debt to be higher than White House forecast. Now, I talked about the story earlier today. The White House said it was going to be $8.5 trillion in 10 years. It turns out it's $9.7 trillion.
So what?
Wait a minute. So it's $1.2 trillion more than they sold to the American people, Bob.
Which is about the. Let me ask. Can I ask Laura a question?
When did $1.2 trillion not matter to people?
That was about what the deficit that George Bush Bush handed off to Barack Obama,
No,
if I
it's not.
remember
It was
right.
$400 billion,
Laura,
Bob.
Yes.
your point about everybody in America just should have health care. And by the way, your point, people can keep their health care they have now.
No, they
Do
can't.
you think in the end? Do you think in the end that this detailed thing people out in the country really care about the infighting about what's going on in Capitol Hill, or do they care about the health care?
Don't listen
bill?
to his loaded question. Go ahead.
Oh,
Answer it your
excuse
way.
me, from Mr. Loaded himself.
Answer it your way. Go ahead, Laura.
Boys. You know, I really. That's not why I'm in charge. I mean, I'm not in charge. I'm paying.
Wait a minute,
I'm
he's
paying
saying-
you all to figure that.
Don't you
Don't
think
do that.
people care
But-
how when you hear corruption and senators bought off and backroom
Right.
deals, don't you think that makes people mad?
I absolutely
think
makes
it's
me mad,
corrupt
but
if
I
you go
think
to
that's
war
what
with
Obama's
them?
supposed to do. Is
Laura,
supposed to
Laura, the point is we are in charge.
Right.
That's
we are
the point.
people.
It's
We
not
are
the
in charge.
politicians who are in charge. It's we're
the
in
Tea
charge.
Party movement is
That's
proving
what the Tea Party movement is saying. And let me tell you something. If you go to the American people and you say the way I'm going to pay for the biggest expansion in government in American history is by taking $500 billion from Medicare, which already has $38 trillion in unfunded liabilities, senior citizens are going to go nuts, taxpayers are going to go
Ralph,
nuts.
Did you get all your talking points done? Did you make sure you got them all in?
I actually have
You're
a few
good.
more.
I'm glad
I
you
have
got
a few
them.
more,
I bet
Bob.
you do, but you guys have done. You got all you got. You've ended the show.
What about what I just said is
What
not true?
about what you just said
What
has
about
nothing
what
to
I
do with
just said
reality?
isn't true. It's all true.
This is Bob's way of deflecting. But you know what, Bob? Walk off the plank with your fellow libs. Goodbye. We'll see you. We'll see you in a few years.
Fine. That's fine.
We'll take a break. Thanks, guys, for being
There are
with us. Coming up, the
consequences to
countdown begins. Tucker Carlson, he joins us live to kick off our Waste 102 special. We will be headed to Lansing, Michigan for a stimulus project. This will bug you. I use that word bug. Highlights. Straight ahead.
This program is